The day my wife asked for the password to my laptop, I already knew the marriage was over. Not because I was hiding another woman or a secret gambling habit, but because her voice had that new, polite tone like customer service. The same tone she used on strangers who annoyed her and on me when my account hit zero. I was standing in our kitchen with a mug that said "World's Best Husband," a joke gift from her sister back when my life still looked like it had momentum. The sink was full because the dishwasher had been making a dying whale noise for a month, and we kept pretending it was fine. Just like us. Maya leaned on the counter and tapped her nails once, twice, like she was timing my response. She said, "I need it for the tax folder. You know I always handle that stuff." I said, "Sure." And I watched her eyes flick past my face to the desk in the living room, where my inbox was still open. And that was the first twist in the knife, because she did not need taxes. She needed proof. Something clean and printable so she could feel righteous when she did what she had already decided to do. 2 hours later, I found a printed email on the tray of our cheap printer. One I never printed. Subject line: "Loan payment overdue. Final notice." The ink was still warm when I picked it up, like the paper itself was embarrassed to be caught in our house. Maya walked in and did not even try to act surprised. She said, "We cannot keep living like this." Like what? Like adults who hit a rough patch. Like partners who promised for better or worse. I did not say any of that out loud, because dignity is easier to keep when you do not beg for it. I said, "I know it is bad right now, but I have interviews this week." She smiled in a way that did not touch her eyes and said, "Interviews are not jobs." And then she said the sentence that made my stomach go cold. "I have been patient for years." Years, she said it like I had been failing forever. Not like I had been laid off 6 months ago after my company got bought, and the new leadership cut half of us like trimming dead branches. I wanted to remind her about the nights I stayed up redoing her grad school essays. The way I took extra freelance gigs so she could quit the job she hated. The summer I paid her car insurance when she forgot and acted offended that I even noticed. Instead, I nodded, because arguments only feed the story she was writing about me. Then she reached into her tote bag and slid a folder across the counter. The folder had my name on a sticky note, but her handwriting looked different. Tighter, like she had practiced. Inside were divorce papers, already filled, already dated, already confident. She said, "You can keep the couch. I do not want it." And I almost laughed, because the couch was the only thing we owned outright. Everything else was financed, rented, or held together with duct tape and denial. I said, "You have been planning this." She said, "I have been preparing," like that sounded nicer. Then her phone buzzed. She flipped it over fast, too fast, like the screen might flash a confession, and she tucked it under the folder. I saw the corner of the notification, just 2 words. "Dinner tonight." No name, just the message. And my brain did that calm, horrible math where you add tiny clues until the sum is betrayal. I looked at her ring, still on, still shining. I looked at her nails, freshly done, a color she never wore for me. And I thought, of course. She said, "I need stability. I need to feel safe." I said, "Safe, Maya. I have never raised my voice at you. I have never missed a rent payment until this year. I have never made you wonder where I am at night." She shrugged like those things were basic features of a husband, not choices a man makes every day. Then she said the part that still makes my jaw tighten when I remember it. "I cannot be with someone who is going nowhere." And she looked past me at the window, like she could already see a better life parked outside. I signed nothing that day. I said, "I need time." She said, "You have until Friday." And she walked out. And the smell of her perfume stayed in the kitchen like a smug witness. I stood there with the folder, with the warm paper that said I was failing, and with a phone that was silent because nobody calls the broke guy unless they want money he does not have. I sat at the desk, opened my email again, and there it was. The second twist, an unread message from a number I did not recognize. Subject line, "Final interview moved up. Please confirm." I stared at it like it was a prank. Because the company was not just any company. It was Kestrel Dynamics, the one place in my industry people whispered about, like it was a locked room full of money and opportunity, and I had applied out of spite and hope on the same night. I clicked the message. my hands steady even though my pulse was sprinting. They wanted to see me in person, downtown, tomorrow morning. I looked back at the divorce folder, and I thought, Maya thinks she is leaving a sinking ship. She has no idea there is a lifeboat already in the water. She came home late that night. I heard the key, the quiet steps, the careful way she moved like she did not want to start a fight. She did not speak. She went straight to the bedroom, and I heard the closet door open, hangers clacking. I sat in the dark living room and watched my own reflection in the blank TV screen. I told myself, do not chase her. Do not ask questions you already know the answer to. Do not lose your dignity for a person who is already halfway out the door. Instead, I opened my notes app and wrote 3 words. Protect what is left. Then I added a 4th. Smile later. Because if tomorrow went the way I felt it might, I would not need to convince her of anything. Life would do it for me, and the best revenge would be boring, clean, and well paid. Friday came faster than it had any right to, and I spent Thursday morning wearing the only suit that still fit like it belonged to an adult. Not a guy who lived on ramen and optimism. The tie was slightly shiny like it had survived a different decade. But I tied it anyway. Because when your life is on fire, you do not show up looking like smoke. I took the bus downtown and watched my reflection wobble in the window, jaw set, eyes clear. The kind of face that says, I have problems, but I am not your problem. Kestrel Dynamics sat in a glass tower with a lobby that smelled like citrus and money. I signed in, got a visitor badge, and tried not to laugh at the irony of being labeled visitor in a place I wanted to belong to. The receptionist told me someone would be right with me. Then she said, coffee, water, and I said water, because coffee makes my hands talk, and today my hands needed to stay quiet. A minute later, a man in a navy blazer approached and said my name like he already knew what I could do. I recognized him from industry panels. Tristan Hale, the chief operations officer. The guy who looked like he slept 8 hours and never once worried about a bill. He shook my hand, firm but not dominant, and guided me into a conference room with a view of the river. He said, we moved your final interview up because your case file caused debate, and I said, debate is better than indifference. He smiled. Then he slid a folder toward me, my resume printed on thick paper, and I noticed notes in the margins, actual notes, like someone had read it with interest. Tristan said, we are building a new division. We need someone who can rebuild teams fast. Someone who is technical but not fragile. Someone who can make hard calls without needing a parade afterward. And as he spoke, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I did not look. I did not move. I kept eye contact because some opportunities arrive wearing a test. Tristan paused, glanced at my pocket, then said, take it. We are not a monastery. I pulled the phone out. One text from Maya, reminder, Friday. I almost laughed because she thought she was my deadline. I put the phone face down and said, sorry, noise from home? Tristan said, home is always noisy. Then he leaned back and asked, tell me about the worst professional betrayal you have survived. I blinked once because the universe has a sense of humor and apparently subscribes to my suffering. I told him about the acquisition, the promised retention bonuses that vanished, the way my manager shook my hand one day and escorted me out the next. I told him how I rebuilt my skills anyway, how I took freelancing work, how I learned to pitch, how I kept my head. Tristan listened like he was measuring my spine, not my words. Then he asked the question that hit closer. What did you do afterward? Blame them or build yourself, I said. I built, because blaming is a hobby and I do not have that kind of free time. He smiled again, and that was when the third person walked in. A woman with a sharp bob and a tablet. She introduced herself as HR, and I recognized her too. Not from panels, from Maya's social media. She had liked several of Maya's photos over the last year. The kind of likes that are too consistent to be casual. My throat went tight for half a second. Not fear, just surprise. The twist you feel when life connects 2 dots you did not realize were on the same page. The HR woman said, we have a standard background process, financial and legal. Do you have anything that could complicate a director-level appointment? And I thought of the overdue notice, the loan, the divorce. I said, I have debt from a layoff period. but no legal trouble, and I am current on everything." She nodded, typing. Then she said, "Your address, is it still the one on your application?" I hesitated, because the address was still the apartment, still Maya's chosen exit ramp. I said yes for now. And Tristan watched me carefully. Like he saw the hesitation as information, not weakness. After another 30 minutes, Tristan closed the folder and said, "I do not want to drag this out. I want you running this new division, Director of Operations and Integration, start date in 2 months, salary." He quoted a number that made my brain go silent for a beat. Not because it was unbelievable, but because it was exactly the kind of unbelievable that becomes real if you do not flinch. Then he added, "We will send the offer today. But I need one thing, discretion. We are reorganizing. Some people will be unhappy. Keep this quiet until the public announcement." I nodded, because silence is easy when it is protecting something. I walked out of the building feeling lighter, like my ribs had more room. The bus ride back felt different. The same city, but a different future. I got home and found Maya at the kitchen table with the folder open, like she was staging evidence for a courtroom drama. She looked up and said, "Where were you?" I said. "Interview," she said. Again, and I said, "Final one." She snorted, then slid a pen toward me like she was offering a truce that came with a blade. "Sign," she said. "I am staying at my sister's this weekend. I will come back Monday for the rest of my things." I looked at the papers. I looked at her face, and I realized something calm and clear. She wanted my signature today because she wanted to leave before she felt guilty, before she had to watch me try again. Because watching someone try makes it harder to justify abandoning them, I said. "I will sign after my lawyer reviews it." Maya's eyes narrowed. "You do not have a lawyer," I said. "You would be surprised what I have." She stood up fast, chair scraping, and her phone lit up on the table. She grabbed it, but not fast enough. I saw the name this time, Trent, and I saw the preview. "Are we still on for tonight?" Maya tucked the phone away and said, "Do not make this harder," I said. "You already did." Then she went to the bedroom and started packing, and I sat in the living room and opened my email. And there it was. The offer letter. Subject line, "Welcome to Kestrel." I did not open it yet, not because I was afraid, but because I wanted one quiet second to feel the old version of me letting go. I heard a drawer slam, then another. I heard Maya's footsteps, then a pause in the doorway, like she wanted to say something kinder, but kindness is expensive when you are leaving, she said. "I will have my sister pick me up." And I said, "Okay." And I kept my voice steady, because the best part of my life was now something she did not get to touch, and as the door clicked shut behind her, my phone buzzed again. Not Maya this time, a number I did not know. I answered and a man said my name, then said, "This is compliance at Kestrel. We have a question about your marital status." And my stomach dropped, because discretion is one thing, but secrets have a way of crawling toward the light. And I realized Maya was not the only person who had been preparing, the compliance guy said. "We are running standard checks. We need to confirm whether you are legally separated, married, or divorced, because directors sign conflict disclosures." I kept my voice calm. I said, "Married, but in process of divorce," he said. "Understood. We also need to ask if your spouse works with us or for any partner vendors." I froze for half a breath, because that was not a random question. That was a net being cast in my direction. I said, "Not to my knowledge." He said, "Please email any updates immediately." Then he hung up like he had never met me, like he had not just planted a seed of doubt in my living room. I sat there staring at the closed door Maya walked through, and my brain replayed little things I ignored. The way she started networking more after my layoff, the business events she suddenly cared about, the new dresses that were too polished for grocery runs, the fact she always had her phone face down like it was a loaded mousetrap. I opened the offer letter and read it twice. Salary, start date, title, all real, all mine. But then I read the section about disclosure, family relationships, conflicts, any connection that could compromise decisions. And I realized this promotion was a bridge, not a finish line, and bridges can be burned from either side. I needed to know if Maya had a connection to Kestrel, not to confront her like some messy reality show, but to protect my future like it was a newborn. I did the one thing I hate doing. I went into the bedroom and opened our shared filing drawer, the one Maya treated like her territory. I did it slowly. No rummaging, no chaos, just quiet inventory. I found utility bills, insurance cards, old warranties for appliances that died anyway. Then a small envelope I had never seen. Plain white, no return address. Inside was a printed badge photo. Maya's face, smiling, and the words, Kestrel Dynamics, visitor, valid for 1 day. My throat went cold again. Visitor badge means she had been there, recently, and not for a casual tour. The date on it was 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, I was eating canned soup and promising her I would figure it out. While she was walking through the same lobby I walked through today, I slid the badge back into the envelope and put it exactly where it was, because I was not going to become the guy who panics and breaks things. I was going to become the guy who gets facts. That night, I did not call friends. I did not post anything. I did not drink. I opened my laptop and searched my own email for every message that mentioned Maya's networking events, names, invites, anything. I found a calendar invite from months ago. Maya had forwarded it to me with a note. Maybe you can meet people. I ignored it at the time because I was embarrassed to be unemployed. The invite was for a Kestrel-sponsored mixer, hosted by Tristan Hale. I stared at it like it was a confession written in plain language. I checked the attendee list, and there it was. Trent Ashford, the same Trent texting my wife about dinner. And under his name, Senior Partnerships, Kestrel Dynamics. I leaned back and let out a slow breath. So that was the link. Maya was not just cheating. She was cheating into my new company. And if she could not keep her phone upright at my kitchen table, she definitely was not keeping her mouth shut around people who love gossip. I needed a plan that did not involve shouting. Because shouting is what people do when they have no leverage. I had leverage. I had time. And I had a director role on the horizon. Friday night around 10, my phone buzzed again. A text from Maya. I forgot my gold watch. Can you put it aside? I almost smiled, because the watch was not gold. It was cheap, plated, and she only called it gold when she wanted to feel expensive. I replied, "Sure, I will leave it on the entry table." Then I did not leave it there. I put it in a drawer and waited, because I wanted her to come back. I wanted her to step into the apartment one more time while I was ready. Saturday morning, her sister did not show up. Maya did, alone, wearing that same polished look like she was heading to somewhere better than me. She opened the door with her key like she still belonged, then stopped when she saw me sitting on the couch. Calm, dressed, coffee already made. She said, "I thought you would be out," I said. Plans changed. She glanced toward the bedroom, then toward my laptop on the coffee table, then back at me. She said, "Where's the watch?" I said. "Before I hand it over, I want to ask something simple. Have you been to Kestrel Dynamics recently?" And the tiny flicker in her eyes told me the truth arrived before her words did. Maya laughed once, too sharp, too quick. Then she said, "Why would I be there?" I said, "Because I found your visitor badge, dated 2 weeks ago." She stopped moving, like her body paused to let her brain catch up. Then she did the thing people do when they are cornered. She switched to offense. She said, "You went through my things." I said, "Our things." And I did not dig. It was sitting on top like you wanted it found. Her mouth opened, then closed. Then she said, "Fine." I went. It was a networking mixer. My friend invited me. So what? I said. "Which friend?" Maya rolled her eyes. "You are being weird," I said. "No, I am being specific. Because Kestrel called me last night asking if my spouse works there." She blinked. "Just once, but it was enough," I said. "Trent Ashford, right?" Her jaw tightened. I could see the answer sitting behind her teeth. Then she tried to soften it with a sigh, like honesty was exhausting. She said, "Trent is helping me," I said. "Helping you do what?" Maya lifted her chin, "Helping me move forward, because you are stuck." I almost applauded the audacity, but I stayed calm. I said, You are leaving me while I am about to join that company. In 2 months, I start as director, and you are dating a senior partnerships guy there. Maya's face changed. Not guilt, not fear, something like calculation. She said, "Director, you?" I said. "Yes. And the best part, it is confidential for now, but you just proved why." Maya took a step closer. Her voice dropped, almost gentle. "You did not tell me," I said. "You served me divorce papers. You were not exactly in a sharing mood." She looked around the apartment like she could see a different version of it now, like it might become valuable again. Then she said, "We do not have to do this. We can pause, we can talk," I said. "You mean you can pause because you already packed?" Maya's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and silenced it fast. "But I saw the name, Trent, again," I said. "Tell him you are busy." Maya's eyes flashed. "Do not tell me what to do," I said. "Then do not pretend this is about love." She went quiet, then tried a new angle. "I was lonely. You were always stressed. Always on your laptop." "Always worrying," I said. "I was building a life, and you were building an exit." She inhaled like she might cry, but no tears came. Just another careful voice. "Okay, what do you want?" I said. "I want a clean divorce. I want you to stop using my name around Kestrel, and I want you to understand something. You do not get to leave me broke and come back rich." Maya's lips pressed together. Then she said, "You are really going to punish me forever?" I said, "No. I am going to protect myself forever." Then I stood, opened the drawer, and handed her the watch, and as she took it, her hand trembled just a little. Maya held the watch like it was suddenly heavy. Then she tried to smile, the kind of smile that asks for mercy without saying please. She said, "If you are a director, you could help Trent too. You know, partnerships always needs allies," and there it was. The real confession. Not cheating, not loneliness, but strategy. I nodded like I was taking notes. Then I said, "So you did not just meet him. You attached yourself to him, and now you want to attach yourself back to me." Maya's eyes went wide. She said, "That is not fair," I said. "Fair left when you printed my overdue notice." Then I picked up my phone and opened a draft email, addressed to compliance, subject line, potential conflict disclosure. I did not send it yet. I just let her see the screen. Maya whispered. "Do not do that," I said. "Then do not make me." She swallowed, then said, "What if I tell Trent to back off?" I said. "You do not control him, you control you." She stepped back, and for the first time she looked small, not pathetic, just exposed. She said, "You are different," I said. "No, I am finally listening." Maya left without another word, the door closing softer than before, like she was afraid sound might shatter whatever chance she was still inventing. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. "Unknown number," I answered, and a man said, "This is Trent. Maya told me you threatened her." I almost laughed at the phrasing. Threatened, like I was holding a weapon and not a boundary. I said, "I asked her to stop mixing my name with your job." Trent said, "You are unemployed. You do not get to scare people at Kestrel." I said, "Interesting, because I start in 2 months as Director of Operations and Integration, and I will be disclosing this call if you keep going." Silence. Then a forced chuckle. He said, "Congrats." I said, "Thanks. Now here is my request. Do not contact me again. Do not contact Maya through me, and do not bring my personal life into company space." Trent exhaled, then said, "You are making a mistake." I said, "No, I am correcting one," and I hung up. Then I sent the email to compliance. Short, factual, no drama. Spouse has personal relationship with employee and partnerships. Possible conflict. Will recuse if needed. Transparency is not revenge. It is armor. My laptop chimed with a reply an hour later. "Thank you, noted. Meeting scheduled next week." And I leaned back. Not relieved, but steady, because the storm was no longer inside me. It was outside, and I had a roof now. A week later, Maya showed up at my door with a different face, softer, almost pleading. Her eyes red like she had been practicing regret. She said, "I ended it with Trent. He used me. He said you reported him. He is in trouble," I said. "I did not report him. I disclosed a conflict like an adult." She stepped closer, hands clasped. Can we start over? I was scared. I made a mistake. I miss us. I looked at her for a long second, then I said, You miss stability? Not me. Maya's mouth trembled. I kept my voice calm. You divorced me when my bank account was empty. You did not ask what I was becoming. You only asked what I could provide. I will not hate you, but I will not rehire you into my life, she whispered. Please, I said. No. Then I handed her a copy of the signed divorce filing from my lawyer. Clean, fair, final. She stared at it, then at me, like she expected me to soften. I held my ground. Because dignity is not loud, it is consistent. Maya turned away, and as she walked down the hall, I felt something unclench. Not anger leaving, but illusion. 2 months later, I walked into Kestrel with a director badge of my own. And the funniest part is this. The man she left had nothing, but the man she begged had everything he needed to say no and mean it.